Good morning. Today we discuss about in the last class we discussed about the functions of management, right? So today we discuss about the management as a science. Okay, management as a science or an art or a profession. Okay, so when you talk about this management as a science, so generally science is defined as, it is an organized knowledge. Okay, it is an organized knowledge. So a discipline, when I want to say it is a science, when I want to say it is a science, if the methods of inquiry are systematic and empirical, then the information can be accumulated and analyzed, then the results are commutative and communicable. So cumulative and communicable. So when I say this kind of thing, then management as well as a science. Okay. So development of management as a science is a recent origin, and even though its practice as ages old. Okay, so we can call it as father of a scientific management, Frederick Winslow Taylor. He was the first manager and theorist who made the significant contribution to the scientific management. He is the one we called as a father of scientific management. He has made a lot of contributions to the development of management as a science, and also used the scientific methods of analysis, observations, and experimentation in the management of production function. So as we told that it is when I say it is a scientific, it is nothing but it is a method of inquiry or systematic and empirical, and the information we are going to accumulate it. So the same way the F.W. Taylor has used the scientific methods of analysis, observation, and experimentation in the management of production functions. And a manager, prospective manager, as he was, he distilled certain fundamental principles and also propounded a theory and the principles of scientific management. So as a father, as I told you that he is a father of scientific management, he has come out with his own theory and principle of scientific management, which is widely accepted by the all over the globally. So now even still we are using the some of the scientific principles of scientific management which are given by the F.W. Taylor. And it has also provided powerful tools of analysis, prediction, and control of practicing managers. And the scientific character of management has been, particularly strengthened by the management scientists who have developed the mathematical models of decision making. So here, as I told that we are using the information can be accumulated and analyzed, right? So how we are going to do all this by using the some of the statistical tools. When I say the systematic, so being systematic means being orderly. So we are going to arrange it the data in an ordered manner, and we are collecting the information, right? So information collected first as a raw data, and then it is going to be arranged in order, then we are going to analyze it. So while analyzing it, we are going to use the statistical tools and then mathematical models of decision making also. So the management scientists have developed even the mathematical models of decision making. So decision making can be different ways. We can think about certainty based decision makings under certainty conditions and uncertainty conditions also. So that we can discuss, I think, when the decision trees concepts are there. Next, another characteristics of science in management is that it uses the scientific methods of observation. As you told that we are using the scientific methods of observations and as well as experimentation and as well as laboratory research. All these three we can use. And management principles are formally based on the observed phenomena. So observed phenomena, so as a systematic and empirical, as I told that they are going to the observations are very much required in order to put all these observations in a systematic manner and then analyzing of these data. So these analysis and study of observed phenomena are used for inferring, so cause and effect relations. What happened? What are the root causes of for this effect? So these things can be done through this observed phenomena. So here this cause and effect relationship generally can be carried out between the two or more variables. So what are the causes to give this kind of effect? Effect maybe it's a bad or a good effect. So we need to find out what are the root causes which is causing that effect. So that's what you can call as cause-effect analysis. This can be done through observed phenomena, and hypothesis. When it comes to that hypothesis testing, so when the hypothesis is tested and found it is to be true, then we call it as principles. We can call it as a principle. So these principles, when applied to practical situations, then we can describe and analyze the problem, solving the problems and predicting the results. So this is simply, because management as a social science, we are talking about the management as a social science. It's not, engineering science or, okay, so which we discuss about like, physics and chemistry and all those. So this is simply because management is a social science and deals with the behavior of the people in the organization. Right. So, and also before going to the management and art, we can say science as a cumulative in that what we discovered and it is added to which is found to be found before. So it is as we discussed in the beginning of the science, what is the definition of a science? Okay, so we are going to give cumulative and communicable results. Okay, so which are we are going to give cumulative and communicable results through this analysis of data and observation, systematic and empirical. So based on that, the results we are going to keep it in a cumulative and communicable. So that's what we can say. A science is also a cumulative in increasing by successive addition. Okay, so next, management, when it comes to the management as an art. So an art in the sense, say engineering is a science, its application to the solution of practical problems is an art. So similarly, the management is which you have a body of knowledge of the management principles, and a discipline is a science. So its application to the solution of organizational problems, because once you have the knowledge of the principles of management, how it can be applied in organizational in the organizations. So that it will become as a application of the to the solution of organizational problems will become an art. So it is in that we can say management is a kind of partly an art as well as partly an science. So as we discussed in this second one, so we are applying the principles of management. So as a science, a discipline as a science. So we can say it is a partly as a science and as well as a partly an art. So it is a combinational. So you are applying the knowledge of the principles of management to the solution of organizational problems. So that we can call as art. So management, we can say partly an art and as well as partly a science in this second one which I am talking about. And the practice of management, like the practice of medicine, is firmly grounded in a identifiable body of concepts and theories and principles. So a medical practitioner, we know that a medical practitioner who does not base his diagnosis, okay, and a prescription on the science of medicine. So it endangers the life of patient. So that's why he has to have a kind of systematic principles which he is to follow. And a manager who manages without possessing the knowledge of management, it will become jeopardizes the well-being of organization. So it creates a chaos in the organization. It creates a chaos in the organization. So a manager who manages without possessing the knowledge of, that's what we discussed in the second point in the management as an art. So you need to apply the knowledge of management to the solutions of organizational problems. When it comes to the principles of management, like the principles of medicine, which are used by the practitioner, not as rules of thumb, but as guides in solving practical problems. So it is often said to be that managerial decisions making involves large element of judgment. So decision making involves the large element of judgment. So this is also, while taking the decision, it's also it becomes an art of making a good decision, So that's what we can say management as an art of decision making also in this point of. Next, coming to the management as a profession. So a profession, when I say a professional manager, so we can say generally a manager who undertakes the management as a career and is not interested in acquiring ownership share in the enterprises which he manages. He don't acquire the ownership share. So he's undertakes the management as a career. Okay, he undertakes the management as a career, and he serves the organization with his knowledge of management. He serves the organization. That is the one important as a management as a profession, which I can say. And according to the McFarland, a profession possesses the following characteristics. So how do you say it's a management as a profession? So because when I say a profession, each profession has to follow some kind of characteristics. So what kind of characteristics that a profession has to possess? So if you look at these points, a body of principles, techniques, skills, and specialized knowledge. If a profession will be having a body of principles and techniques which you need to apply, and as well as skills which you need to learn, and the specialized knowledge about the management. So then we can say it is a management as a profession. And similar, the second point, when I say there will be a formalized methods of acquiring training and experience. So it is a formalized methods of acquiring training and experience. And the third one, establishment of representative organization with the professionalization as its goal. So when I say if there is an establishment of representative organization with the professionalization as its goal, then we can say it is a profession. Then fourth point, the formation of ethical codes for the guidance of conduct. So each profession has its own ethical codes which has to follow as a guidance of conduct. It is a guidance of conduct. So the formation of ethical codes for the guidance of conduct. And then finally, very important, the charging of fees based on the nature of service which you have given to the organization. So say for example, in the case of lawyers, so they are going to charge the fees based on the nature of service. So lawyer is a kind of a profession. That will come under this fifth point, the charging of fees based on the nature of services. So management is a profession to the extent that fulfills all the above conditions, all the five important characteristics which has to possess when I want to say a profession. So similarly, if I want to say management as a profession, then it has to fulfill all the above conditions. Then only we can say that management is a profession. So it is a profession in the sense that there is systematized body of the management we have, and the principles we have, okay, and identified discipline is also there, okay, and it has also developed a vast number of tools and techniques which you have, management techniques, we can say management techniques. So that's why we can call it as management is a profession. But unlike medicine or law, a management degree is not a prerequisite to become a manager. So even if you finish off your MBA, we cannot say that he is become a manager. So in fact, most managers in India as elsewhere do not have any formal management education. So management is also a profession in the sense that formalized methods of training is available to those who desire to be a manager. So if I want to be a manager, so then I can learn the formalized methods of training if I want to serve for a particular organization as a manager. So that's what management is also a profession in the sense that formalized methods of training we have to those who desire to be a managers. Similarly, training facilities are provided in most companies by their training divisions. So training facilities are provided in most of the companies by their training division. So training to become a manager, so all the organizations with their training divisions, they are going to give the training facility for the employees to become a manager also. And some of the organizations which you can call as Administrative Staff College of India, Indian Institute of Management, Management Development Institute, All India Management Association, and University Departments of Management offer a variety of short-term management training programs. So which will be talked as which gives the formalized methods and training on the management. So that's why management is called as a profession. Okay. So now we'll come to the next topic, which is management and administration. So when we discuss while discussing the syllabus, as we told that the management and administration, we say that both are similar. Both are similar, not of much difference between them. We can say not much difference between them. The use of two terms, management and administration, it has been a controversial issue in the management literature, because as we told that both looks like a similar, so we can say both are similar in nature. So that there is a controversial issue, that which one is called as a management and which one is called as administration. So some writers, when you say they do not see that any difference between the two terms. So that's what management and administration is not have much difference. So while others maintain that administration and management are two different functions, some of them they'll be thinking like that. But those who held management and administration are distinct include Oliver Sheldon and Florence and Teed and Spiegel and Landsberg, etc. So according to them, they have defined different way. According to them, management is a administration involves a thinking, he says, and management involves doing. So somebody says management is a function of doing. So whereas administration, it is a kind of thinking function. So administration involves thinking, and some of them they think that management is a doing function, which involves the doing function, and it is also a lower level function. It is also a lower level function, whereas some of them they have thought of that administration is a top level function. Administration is a top level function. So those who held as I told that these three who have mentioned that management is a lower level function, and which they are taught even that management is a doing function. Whereas administration, they have said it is a thinking function which is laid down by the top level management, low level management and top level management. So management involves with the low level function, and administration involves with the top level function, which executes. So that's why concerned primarily with the execution of policies which are laid by the administration. So that's what he has mentioned, the differences. And but some English authors like Breck, EFL Breck, we can call as EFL Breck, are of the opinion that the management is a wider term which includes the administration. So management is a broader term where the administration is also included in the management function. So EFL Breck, according to the EFL Breck, he has mentioned that the management is a wider term including the administration. So this controversy is discussed under three heads. So when I say administration is concerned with the determination of policies, and management with the implementation of policies. So determination of policies, management with implementation. Implementation comes into the picture of execution. So doing function. So that's why administration is concerned with the determination of policies, means identifying what kind of policies has to be implemented to the organization. So the establishment of all objectives and all those can be taken by the administration. Administration is concerned with the determination of policies, and management with the implementation of policies. So that administration, with this say, we can say that administration is a higher level function with this word, and management is a generic term and includes administration. Some of them has mentioned that as I told that EFL Breck has mentioned that management is a generic term which includes the administration. So according to EFL Breck, management is a broad term. Under this management function, this administration function is also included. And some of them, they have mentioned that there is no distinction between the terms management and administration, as they are used interchangeably. Okay, so they have different opinions. As I told that management and both administration are both are same. Both are doesn't have any much difference. Okay. So and some of the authors which I have mentioned, management, administration, branch of management, which is planning and controlling. So administration is related to planning and controlling. But when you take the management functions, which I have, planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling. So the first and last functions of the management will be taken care by the administration. So that's why. So in the second point of this controversy statements, in the second point, which management is a generic term. So because whereas includes the administration. So administration does the two functions which are called as planning and controlling. So these two functions which are involved in a broader sense of management functions. Management functions, we have that planning, organizing, staffing, directing, controlling. So that's why management is a generic term which includes the administration. And also, as we told, that administration involves with the upper level function, and management involves with the lower level functions. That's what in the previous slide which we discussed. And some of the scientists, according to Peter Drucker. So Peter Drucker is one of the famous management science author. And the basic difference between the management and administration lies in the use of the terms which you are going to in a different fields. So if I say managing a business enterprise is called as a management. Okay. So managing a business, non-business organization, non-profit oriented service kind of organization, which is called as administration. So hence, financial performance, which is plays a important role in the management. That's why we can call it as managing a business enterprises is called as a management. And like government offices and military and institutions, educational institution, which are called as a administration. There we can call it as a administration. So according to Peter Drucker, he has mentioned in the way how we use these terms in the fields, in the different fields. Okay. So similarly, Oliver Sheldon, as we discussed in the previous authors' names, Oliver Sheldon, Hans and Teed and Spiegel and Lasberg. So according to this Oliver Sheldon, we has mentioned that management is the function in the industry concerned with the execution of policies within the limits set up by the administration. So it is concerned with the execution of policies. It is concerned with the execution of policies, whereas the administration, administration set up the policies, and management execute the policies. That's what in the first, if you look at this here, according to Oliver Sheldon, he has mentioned this way. He has mentioned this is the first point. Okay. So that is how the administration is primarily the process and agency which is used to establish the object and purpose which is undertaking. Okay. So administration is the phase of business enterprise that concerned with the overall determination of institutional objectives also. So administration is a determinative function. Management is a executive function. That's what we in the beginning of the slide which you have discussed. Management is a administrative function as well as it is a executive function. So if you look at here, there are two different functions. Next, the administration also we have told that it is a thinking function and management is a doing function. So likewise, we have a differences between this administration and management. But many of the authors have said that there is no much difference between the administration and management. So, but we have given some of the basic differences according to the the 5 important characteristics, which are nature of work. So when I say the nature of work, based on the nature of work, it is a primarily concerned with administration, which are going to determine the objectives, as we discussed in the beginning. So they are going to determine the objectives and policies. So that is what it is, a thinking function which you have mentioned. So whereas in the management, whatever the policies are set up by the administration, and those policies are carried out by the management. So that is what we can say. It is due to the implementation of plans and policies. It is duties of the implementation of policies and plans and policies doing the function. It is a doing function. It is a doing function. And scope of this administration and scope of management. So generally, because it involves the as we told that administration involves the planning function and as well as controlling function. So planning is the primary function in a management. So the involving of setting of objectives and all those will be in the planning phase only we are going to do. So it means that it takes the major decisions which are setting up the objectives and policies is a major decision. So the administration takes the major decisions, and as well as it takes the decision within the framework of administration. So whatever the decisions which is taken here in the planning function, that will be executed in all the things. So that's why it takes the decision within the framework of the administration. And levels of authority, if you take that, as I told that the planning and controlling, so it is a thinking function. When I say it is a thinking function, it is a generally while setting up the objectives, top level management will be involved in the setting up objectives and setting up policies for the organization. Then the top level management will be involved. So when I say thinking function in a particular organization, that's why it is called as a top level function. So levels of authority, when I say it is a top level function. So management, as I told that it is a low level function because it involves the doing, which involves doing. So we can say it is a low level function. And coming to the status, so it consists of owners of an enterprise, because top level, when I am say it is a top level function, top level management which are involved, generally the top level management includes, the governor, BOC, all this will called as, a chairman. We can call it as a owners of enterprises, because when I say the administration is a top level function, so all the top level management people involved in the particular organization in the administration. So that consists of owners of an enterprise. That consists of owners of enterprise. And when I say the management, it consists of managerial personnel with a specialized knowledge who may be employees. So generally, the below that we can call it as middle level management, and low level management we can call it as a employees. So those status which you can say, because it is involves the doing function, the management involves the doing function. So we can say it is a low level function. So generally, the employees are involved with the management, and owners are involved in the administration. And coming to the nature of organization. So when I say nature of organization, it is used in relation to the good military, educational, and organization. When you say it is making in business firms, FIRMS, that is a mistake. Okay, so it is making a business firms we can call as a management, and which are going to use in a good military education organization, then it is called as a administration. So then finally, influence. So its decisions are very influenced, because setting up objectives, setting up policies for a long term, so which are very highly influenced. These decisions which are taken by these administration, highly influenced by the external factor, because policies which are going to set our objectives, so it is political, it depends on the political as well as labor and social also. So this if there is any political if there is any political imbalance in this, then we are going to affect the decisions. They are going to affect the decisions. So decisions are influenced by the external factors such as social, political, and labor. And here the influence by the internal factors itself. The influence is going to be here the internal factor, because it is involved with the employees. And you can say such as values and beliefs and opinions, and also we can say skills. If I talk about one more parameter with the basic differences, skills, when I say for the administrative, we need to have a good administrative skills. So it requires good administrative skills. Whereas in the management, because management involves in a doing function, it is much required with the technical skills. So that is what management involves. I mean, administration involves the requires the good administrative skills, and management requires the more technical skills, because of it is a doing function. When you look at this doing function, and when I say the positions are managing director, as I told that it is a top level function, the managing director, CEOs of the companies, and owners of the companies will be called as administrators. And employees, managers, supervisors, foremen in a particular organizations are called as management. And similarly, objectives. So these administration makes the policies, and as well as as we told that objectives and goals to be achieved, all these will be taken care by the administration. Who sets the objectives? Generally, administration people is going to set the objectives, or policies, or goals. Whatever the administrators set the objectives and policies or goals has to be implemented by the management, has to be implemented by the management. So management implements this, whatever the plans or objectives are set up by the administration. That's what we discussed. And involvement, say when I say the involvement as a characteristic of basic difference of this administration and management, generally no direct involvement in production or services can be taken care of this administration. Administration won't involve in a production as well as services. Direct involvement will not be there. Direct involvement will not be there in the case of administration. Whereas management, because it is completely in a doing functionality, so it involves in the execution of plans and achieving the goals. So directly involves. So whereas involvement of doing work is managed in the case of management is high. So there is a direct involvement, whereas administration is indirectly involved in this. Indirectly involved in this. So this is about the basic differences which you can say. Manager, roles of a manager. So when you talk about this roles of a management, before going to that, so the manager, we cannot say that only these roles are going to be performed. So he can perform n number of roles. Okay. So we can discuss here. There are different roles which falls under the three categories. One is interpersonal skills. Okay, interpersonal skills, and one more is informational skills, and finally decision roles. So these are the three roles: interpersonal roles, informational roles, and decisional roles. These are the three roles which is any particular manager has to perform in his being as a manager. Being as a manager. So managers every day they'll be playing a variety of roles. They'll be playing a variety of roles responding to a particular situation. Because when you go to the different organization, they'll be having a responding to a particular situation. So they'll be having variety of roles in every day. The three, that's what we discussed, the three important roles which you can call as interpersonal roles, informational roles, and decisional roles. So we discuss one by one. Interpersonal skills in the sense which involves the interaction, means how you are going to interact with the particular say for example customers, how you interact with the customers, how you are going to interact with the external stakeholders and all those, how you are going to interact with your subordinates. Okay, all this, it's nothing but interaction, human interaction. So this completely the interpersonal name says that it is a human interaction. So this role involves human interactions. So when I say first and foremost thing is as a monitor. So in this interpersonal role, he acts as a monitor, and we can say that he is going to seek and receive the information, scan periodicals, reports, maintain the personal contact with the stakeholders, disseminator, okay, and forward the information to organizations members via memos, reports, and phone calls and all those. So that is one kind of disseminates. Disseminator means disseminate the information, within the organizations, and also spokesperson in the sense which is going to transmit the information. So this is a minute. So informational, and this is we can call it as interpersonal. Let me take typo error. Okay. So in the informational role, in the beginning, in the informational role, he involves with because the information has to be disseminated. Information has to be disseminated between the customers and the stakeholders, as well as the subordinates. So how he is going to disseminate this information? How he is going to disseminate the information? So which involves the human interactions, that is what you can call as a informational role. So the very important role is here, how he is going to disseminate the information. So as a monitor, he is going to have the he is going to process the information in this. He is going to process the information here. So seeks and receives the information, scan periodicals and reports, maintain the personal contact with the stakeholders. So disseminator, as a disseminator, forward information to organizational members via memos, reports, and phone calls as well. So he is going to disseminate the information pertaining to the organization, to the members who are involved in a particular organization via report, or it may be through phone call, or it may be some email communication, or by developing the reports. So all this kind of method of communicating to the subordinates. And as a spokesperson, transmit the information to the outside world. external world via reports and speeches as well. So he is going to act as a informational role in the spokesperson. And interpersonal roles, which involve the human interactions, completely, and as a figurehead role, perform the ceremonial and symbolic, figurehead role. When I say figurehead role, in the sense which is going to be act as, which as a head for the particular function, a head for the particular function, which is going to be a greeting visitors, and ceremonial functions, which is going to be and symbolic duties, greeting the visitors and signing the legal documents, like making MOUs and all those. So while making all this, he going to act as a figurehead role. He is going to act as a figurehead role. The manager is going to perform, casual and informal, very casual and informal one. Receiving the delegates. Receiving the delegates is also one of the role which is going to be manager as to perform in the under the figurehead role, because he's the one who is going to receive the dignitaries. So that's why it is called as a figurehead role. And also lies leader. Leader is which who direct and motivate the subordinates and counsel them, communicate with the subordinates. All this we can call as a leader. So direct and motivate the subordinates, counsel and communicate with the subordinates. And as a liaison officer, means he's going to act as a both inside and outside the organization. So he's a communicating officer. Is a kind of communicating with the inside organization as well as the outside the organization via mails and phone calls and meetings. So he's maintained information links with the both inside and outside the organization. So in the liaison role of liaison, the manager works like a liaison officer between top management as well as the subordinate staff also. So liaison is a kind of mediator role is going to act as. And coming to the last, decision roles. In this, the role which is decision making, it involves decision making. So decisional entrepreneur initiate the improvement projects, identify new ideas, delegate idea responsibilities. So these are all which are completely involved in the decision making. So disturbance handler. So when there is some disturbance is involved, maybe like union strike and all those, he is going to take the corrective action during the disputes or any crisis. So resolve the conflicts among the subordinates also, and also if there is any strikes, union strikes are there. So he is the one who is going to take the disturbance handler. And resource. So he decides who gets the resources, prepare the allocated budgets, set schedules, and determine the priorities. As a resource person, is going to allocate all the resources which are required during the organization function which you discussed. So resources are required to carry out the plan of action. So these resources will be provided by the manager. And negotiator, so represent the department during the negotiations of union contracts, sales, purchases, and budgets and all those. So he's going to act as negotiator. He's going to act as a negotiator. We can say it is called as how we are going to represent the department for negotiations of any sales or purchases and all those. So in that he's going to act as a negotiator. So with this today I'm going to stop, and your this is going to be highlighted in 2 minutes. Okay, so I stop today. So please enter the USN in the chat box. Please all of you enter the USN in the chat box.